Non-negotiables for the NFC North teams.
Yes, Chef.
For the Minnesota Vikings, the non-negotiable to me is that Justin Jefferson's got to elevate the level of his quarterbacks. You're paying him $35 million a year now. You moved on from Kirk Cousins, in part because extending Jefferson was your number one organizational priority. You blew away the wide receiver market. We don't know right now, is it going to be Sam Darnold or is it going to be J.J. McCarthy when the season begins? And when the season ends, what we do know is Justin Jefferson, they got a lot of other weapons on that team. Signed Aaron Jones. They have Jordan Addison, though we'll see how things shake out in terms of whether or not he's actually available at the start of the season. You got T.J. Hawkinson. Justin Jefferson is your guy. Missed time last year. He's got to be the absolute leader in every regard of your team. For the Packers, Jeff Hafley's got to be a difference maker. They made a run. They went deep in the playoffs. They very well could have ended up being a Super Bowl team, and they had the 49ers on the ropes on the road. They fired Joe Barry after that. They would have had him back in a different role, but they were going to move on from him as a D coordinator. Jeff Hafley from my alma mater, BC, in recent years, where he had a lot of different challenges, but gutted out some good wins, did a heck of a job recruiting, just impossible to keep talent and not a great lifestyle. So he goes to Green Bay and unites with Matt LaFleur. He's been part of the Kyle Shanahan tree. You're coming in, and the thing that we've heard over and over is they want to be aggressive. No defense, no coach has ever said, I really want a more passive defensive approach. Everybody says it, but it's true. They want to attack more. They want to have a more consistent approach. Joe Barry was hard on coordinators because he kind of Rolodexed his play calls. He just kind of mixed things up. You didn't know what was coming. They want to have a very clear plan of attack. They got enough talent. Jeff Hafley, got to be a difference maker for Green Bay. In Chicago, Caleb Williams had to start fast. And I've spent plenty of time over these past couple of days talking about these other rookie quarterbacks. And, we got to have patience in Washington, not just with Jaden Daniels, but with the whole Commanders operation. You got to have patience in New England with the guy in Drake May, who of those quarterbacks who were taken up high in the draft, probably realistically is the furthest away from being ready to play in an NFL game. But for Caleb Williams, just with the amount of expectations that have been lumped on him and the Bears, with everything that comes with Caleb Williams, who, from the moment he stepped on the field at Oklahoma, replacing Spencer Rattler a couple of years ago, was looked at as, that's probably going to be the number one pick. To avoid a situation where all of a sudden all that begins boomeranging and you have this hysteria, you have a media market there that's pretty big and has seen a lot and doesn't hesitate to go negative, just get some good vibes going early. You're going to put yourself in a much better position than if you're kind of have to come out of that early season slump. And for the Lions, the Lions were that close as well. There are a few strange plays and missed opportunities away.
How does Ayuk catch that ball? What are we doing? That was insane.
You take a ball off the face mask in the biggest possible moment. There's any different number of ways. You can just say stay the course, but it's never about staying the course in the NFL. It's always about how do you get better.
Right.
So what I'm going to say is Jahmyr Gibbs, my non-negotiable
stud,
is he's got to be somebody that you at least think is in the MVP conversation.
Ooh.
And I had Bucky Brooks on the Insiders yesterday. He was doing his long shot candidates. He had Jared Goff as a long shot MVP candidate. Jahmyr Gibbs, when you watch him live, and I was at a couple of Lions games last year, he's splitting time with David Montgomery. Montgomery had a hell of a year.
He's a beast, too.
Jahmyr Gibbs, though, when he gets rolling, man, is special. And you watch him. I'm not saying it's got to be all Jahmyr Gibbs. Ben Johnson is one of the best play callers and offensive minds in the entire NFL. And Dan Campbell is really, really smart with offense. Whatever they do, I'm sure they got a good plan for it. I'm sure it's still going to be a mix of things in the backfield. But getting Jahmyr Gibbs those opportunities and getting him rolling, that guy could be one of the best running backs, one of the best playmakers in the entire league.
Well, how about for them, Tom, also maybe kick the field goal? Maybe.
See, but Dan Campbell yes. has been defined. His whole program has been defined by a very clear approach, and it's about playing the numbers. It's also about trusting his gut. It's about being aggressive. I don't have any problem. If you spend the entire year, you build everything up, you build your program around, we're going to go for it. I trust my guys on offense. We're going to convert those 4th and 3s. You're not going to convert every one. But you're doing it because you think it's the right thing to do. It's the style of play you want to have. And then all of a sudden in the playoff game, you start going, we're just going to kick the field goal. that sends a message that has an impact on your team, not just in that game, the program in the future. You know, I remember, and I've told this story many times, sitting down with Kyle Shanahan back when he was the Falcons offensive coordinator. And I did a story with him about just the way that his brain works. Because he's, you know, what he told me, and I'm paraphrasing here, was just you build up all these scars over time. Because play calling, as we know it in the NFL, it's not willy-nilly. You've studied tape, you've run the analytics, you know the percentages, you know what the defense tends to do, you know what your tendencies are. Yeah. You're calling things for the right reasons in those moments. And then sometimes they don't work. And you've seen the other team 99% of the time, they've called this defense in this spot. You got the perfect play for it. And then they run something else, and the play fails. And everybody's saying, why in the world did you pass from the 1 yard lines? Because you had a play, and you had a reason for calling it. And what Kyle said was, you have to learn to overcome your scars. You can't go because we got burned on this before. Because in this case, you failed on a 4th down. Well, now you can't go for another 4th down. Or coach scared. Or do something because the next day on the Rich Eisen Show or on talk radio, you're going to hear, what were they doing? It's a lot easier, Shanahan said, to do the thing that is orthodox and then it fails and it's, well, the players didn't execute, than it is to call the right thing, even if it's unorthodox, and have it boomerang on you. You have to still do the right thing.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.